my dear students, I am Anjum Sheikh. Welcome to my class. In previous videos, we have discussed about the pre-fertilization events as well as the fertilization, double fertilization, pollen pistil interaction, etc. Following double fertilization, events of endosperm and embryo development, maturation of ovules into seeds and ovary into fruit are collectively termed as the post-fertilization events. So, in this video, we will be discussing about the post-fertilization structure and events. Now, what is meant by the post-fertilization events? Following double fertilization, events of endosperm and embryo development, then maturation of ovules into seeds and ovary into fruit. Collectively, these events are termed as the post-fertilization events. So, first is endosperm. The endosperm development precedes embryo development. That means it starts before the development of embryo. Listen once again, the endosperm development starts before the development of embryo. Why is it so? Because the primary endosperm cell divides repeatedly and it forms a triploid endosperm tissues. The cells of this tissue are filled with reserve food material and then these are used for the nutrition of developing embryo. This is the purpose why endosperm development takes place before the development of embryo, to provide the nourishment to the developing embryo. Then the PEN stands for primary endosperm nucleus. So, this PEN undergoes successive nuclear divisions to give rise to free nuclei. This stage of endosperm development is called as the prenuclear endosperm. What is meant by prenuclear endosperm? The PEN, that is primary endosperm nucleus, undergoes successive nuclear divisions to give rise to free nuclei. This stage of endosperm development is called the prenuclear endosperm. Here you can see the prenuclear endosperm. The coconut water is called as the prenuclear endosperm. The fleshy white part of the coconut, it represents the endosperm. The endosperm may be either be completely consumed by the developing embryo before seed maturation, or it may persist in the mature seed and it can be used up during the seed germination. Here you can see that in case of groundnut, beans, etc., the endosperm is completely consumed by the developing embryo, and in case of coconut, castor bean, etc., we can observe the endosperm. Now, second step in post fertilization events is formation of embryo. The embryo develops at the micropylar end of the embryo sac where the zygote is situated. Most zygote develops only after certain amount of endosperm is produced. Why? Because the zygotes require nourishment and this nourishment is supplied by the endosperm. The early stages of embryo development are similar in both monocots as well as in the dicots. Then the zygote divides repeatedly and it gives rise to proembryo and then to the globular, heart shaped and the mature embryo. Here you can see the structure of a typical dicot embryo. See the different parts of the typical dicot embryo. It consists of embryonal axis and two cotyledons. See, these two are the cotyledons of the dicot embryo. As the name suggests, it has two cotyledons. Then the portion of embryonal axis above the level of cotyledons is the epicotyle. It ends with the plumule or stem tip. Here you can see the plumule or the stem tip. Then the cylindrical portion below the level of cotyledons is hypocotyle. See, this cylindrical portion is known as the hypocotyl. It terminates into radicle and radicle or root tip. The root tip is generally covered with a root cap, so it remains protected. So this is the structure of a typical dicot embryo. See, the main parts of the typical dicot embryo are embryonal axis and two cotyledons. See, these two are the cotyledons. Then it ends with the plumule. The cylindrical portion below the levels of cotyledons is known as hypocotyl. Then the hypocotyl, it terminates in the radicle or root tip. The root tip is covered with a root cap. So this is the structure of a typical dicot embryo. Now, how is the structure of the embryo of the monocots? The embryo of monocots, as the name suggests, so it possesses only a single cotyledon. In grass family, the cotyledon is called as scutellum. Here you can see the scutellum. It is situated towards one side of the embryonal axis. At lower end, embryonal axis has the radicle, root cap, and it is enclosed in an undifferentiated sheath called as coleorhiza. Epicotyl has shoot apex. Here you can see the shoot apex and a few leaf primordia or the basic structures of leaves. These are enclosed here in a hollow structure called as coleoptile. So this is the structure of the embryo of monocotyledons. As the name suggests, it possesses only one cotyledon. Generally it is in the grass family. The cotyledon is called as the scutellum. See, here you can see the single cotyledon, which is known as scutellum. It is situated towards one side of the embryonal axis. Then at the lower end, embryonal axis has the radicle, root cap. These are enclosed in an undifferentiated sheath or protective layer, which is called as coleorhiza. Epicotyl has shoot apex and a few leaf primordia. Primordia means the structure which is seen before the development of the actual leaf. It is called as the leaf primordia. It is enclosed in a hollow structure and that hollow structure is known as coleoptile. Now third event is formation of seed. In angiosperms, seed is the final product of the sexual reproduction. The seed is also called as the fertilized ovule. Generally the seeds are formed inside the fruits. Here are the structures of some seeds. It is the structure of the dicot seed. Here you can see the structure of the monocot seed. See the detailed structure of a typical monocot seed. Its outermost protective covering is seed coat, as well as it is having fruit wall. Then this inner structure is endosperm. This layer is called as aleuron layer. This is scutellum, coleoptile, plumule, radicle and coleorhiza. Already we have discussed the structure of a monocot seed. Now the structure of the typical dicot seed. The typical dicot seed, as the name suggests, it has two cotyledons. See this outer covering, this is structure of a common bean seed. So outer brownish coating is called as the seed coat, and these are the embryonic leaves or the leaf primordia. Then this is the embryonic root, this is embryonic shoot, and these two are the cotyledons of the dicot seed. A seed typically consists of seed coat, cotyledon and an embryo axis. The cotyledons are very simple structures. Here you can see that these cotyledons are very simple structures. These are generally thick and swollen. Why? Because they are the food reserves. They have the storage of food reserves. That's why these cotyledons are generally thick and swollen. Mature seeds may be albuminous or non-albuminous. Now what is meant by the albuminous as well as non-albuminous seeds? See, first type is albuminous seeds. Albuminous seeds retain a part of endosperm as it is not completely used up during embryo development. Such seeds are called as the albuminous seeds. What are albuminous seeds? the seeds which retain a part of endosperm, which is not completely used up during embryo development, are called as albuminous seeds. For example, wheat, maize, barley, castor, sunflower, etc. Here you can see the structure of the albuminous seed, maize seed. You can see the half portion of the maize seed is occupied by the endosperm, because this endosperm has not been used up during the embryo development. It only uses the partial part of the endosperm. What are albuminous seeds? The seeds which retain a part of endosperm as it is not completely used up during embryo development. The examples are wheat, maize, barley, castor, sunflower, etc. Now what is meant by non-albuminous seeds? See, these seeds have no residual endosperm as it is completely consumed during the embryo development. Non-albuminous seeds, see, these seeds have no residual endosperm. Why? Because that endosperm has been completely consumed during the embryo development. The examples of non-albuminous seeds are peas, groundnut, etc. Here you can see the structure of the groundnut or pea seed. See, its cotyledons, then it is having plumule, the embryonic shoot with first leaves or the lip primordia. Then here is the radicle, that is embryonic root, and this outer brownish coating is called as the seed coat. In some seeds such as black pepper and beet, the remnants or the remaining parts of the nucellus are also persistent. So this residual persistent nucellus, what is nucellus? It is the central part of the ovule which contains the embryo sac. It is the perisperm. What is perisperm? In some seeds such as black pepper and beet, the remnants of nucellus are also persistent. So this residual persistent nucellus is called as the perisperm. What is nucellus? It is the central part of ovule containing the embryo sac. It is known as the nucellus. The examples are beet as well as black pepper. Here you can see the perisperm in the black pepper, while in case of beet the perisperm is located at the center. Now what is meant by the seed dormancy? As the seed matures, its water content is reduced and the seeds become relatively dry. The general metabolic activity of the embryo also slows down and embryo enters the state of inactivity. This is called as seed dormancy. Now you are familiar with dormancy. Dormancy or dormant means the period of inactivity. So when the seeds mature, they also undergo the period of inactivity. Their general metabolic activity of the embryo slow down and their embryo enters the stage of inactivity, which is called as seed dormancy. If favorable conditions such as availability of moisture, suitable temperature, soil is available, then these seeds germinate. See, the seed dormancy is important for plant survival because it ensures that seeds will germinate only under optimal light, temperature and moisture. Here you can see seed dormancy also gives additional time for seed dispersal over long distances. In seed dormancy helps for the dispersal of the seeds over a large distances. Now very important part formed after fertilization is fruits. Now you know that ovules mature into seeds, the ovary develops into a fruits. The transformation of ovules into seeds and ovary into fruits, it proceeds or takes place simultaneously. The process of formation of seeds and the formation of fruit, it takes place simultaneously. The ovules mature into seeds, at the same time the ovary develops into the fruit. The wall of the ovary develops into wall of the fruit, which is called as pericarp. What is meant by pericarp? The wall of the fruit is called as pericarp. The fruits may be fleshy. For example, guava, orange, mango, banana, watermelon, pineapple, etc. So these are the examples of the fleshy fruits. Then the fruits may be dry also. For example, in groundnut and mustard, the fruits are dry. See here, the fruits of groundnut as well as mustard, these are the dry fruits. Now what is meant by false fruits? Now you know that fruits are formed from ovary only, but there are some exceptions. In some species of plants, along with ovary, the thalamus also contributes to the formation of fruits. Such fruits are called as the false fruits. For example, apple, strawberry, cashew, etc. What are false fruits? The fruits which are developed from ovary as well as thalamus. Such fruits are called as the false fruits. False fruits are developed from ovary as well as from the thalamus. So these are known as the false fruits, because true fruits are developed only from the ovary. See the examples of false fruits: apple, strawberry and cashew nuts. These are the examples of the false fruits. Here you can see the two types of fruits. Grape is a true fruit because it is developed from the ovary. See, this is the swollen ovary and the seeds. Seeds in the grapefruit are the fertilized ovules, while apple is said to be the false fruit. It is a edible food. Its flower part fuse and swell. See, here is the pericarp, its core and seeds. So these are the two types of fruits. Grape is an example of true fruit, while an apple is an example of the false fruit. Now what is meant by the parthenocarpic fruits? In some species of plants, the fruits develop without fertilization. Such fruits are called as parthenocarpic fruits. What are parthenocarpic fruits? The fruits which are developed without fertilization are known as the parthenocarpic fruits. For example, banana, pineapple, etc. Have you ever seen the seeds of banana or pineapple? Then how these fruits are formed? These fruits are developed without fertilization. So the fruits which are developed without fertilization are called as the parthenocarpic fruits. Now what are the advantages of seeds? Seeds are very advantageous for the farmers. See, the seeds protect the embryo from the harsh environmental conditions, as the seeds have the protective covering, very hard and protective covering. So they protect the embryo from the harsh environmental conditions. They also provide nourishment and parental care to the developing embryo. Now you know that seeds have the reserve of food material. So the seeds can nourish as well as give the parental care to the developing embryo. The dispersal of seeds to the far off places prevents competition among the members of the same species. So it prevents their extinction. So these are the some of the advantages of seeds. Now tell me, how long do the seeds remain alive? The viability period of seeds varies greatly. Viability means the period of remaining alive. This period varies greatly. In few species such as onion seeds, they lose their viability within few months, while seeds of large number of species live for several years. For example, lotus seeds can remain viable for around 400 years. Then the date palm seeds, they can remain viable for around 2000 years. The example of oldest viable seed is that of a lupine. It germinated after 10,000 years of dormancy. So this was about the formation of seeds. In next video, we will be discussing about the very important point, apomixis and embryony, polyembryony. Thank you.